Greetings, this is Alex, and in front of me is The Omnibus by a name I assume is Quiller-Couch. So, let's read. All that follows was spoken in a small tavern, a stone's throw from Cheapside, the day before I left London. It was spoken in a dull voice, across a greasy tablecloth, and amid an atmosphere so thick with the reek of cooking that one longed to change it for the torrid street again, to broil in an ampler furnace. Old Tom Pickford spoke it, who has been a clerk for 52 years in Tweedy's East India warehouse, and in all that time has never been out of London, but when he takes a holiday, spends it in hanging about Tweedy's and observing that unlovely place of business from the outside. The dust, if not the iron, of Tweedy's has entered into his soul, and Tweedy's young men know him as the Mastodon. Isn't that a type of dinosaur? He's a thin, bald septuagenarian with sloping shoulders and a habit of regarding the pavement when he walks, so that he seems to steer his way by instinct rather than sight. In general, he keeps silence while eating his chop, and on this occasion there was something unnatural in his utterance, a divorce of manner between the speaker and his words, such as one would expect in a sibyl disclaiming under stress of the god. I fancied it had something to do with a black necktie that he wore instead of the blue bird's-eye cravat familiar to Tweedy's, and with his extraordinary conduct in refusing today the chop that the waiter brought, and limiting his lunch to cheese and lettuce. Having pulled the lettuce to pieces, he pushed himself back a little from the table, looked over his spectacles at me, then at the tablecloth, and began in a dreamy voice. "Old Gabriel is dead. I heard the news at the office this morning, and went out and bought a black tie. I am the oldest man in Tweedy's now, older by 6 years than Sam Collins, who comes next, so there is no mistake about it. Sam is looking for the place. I saw it in his eyes when he told me, and I expect he'll get it. But I'm the oldest clerk in Tweedy's. Only God Almighty can alter that, and it's very satisfactory to me. I don't care about the money. Sam Collins will be stuck up over it, like enough. But he'll never write a hand like Gabriel's, not if he lives to be 100, and he knows it, and knows I'll be there to remind him of it. Gabriel's was a beautiful fist, so small, too, if he chose. So small, yes. Why, once, in his spare hours, he wrote out all the Psalms with the headings on one side of a folio sheet, and had it framed and hung up in his parlour out at Shepherd's Bush. He died in the night. Oh, yes, quite easily. He was down at the office all yesterday, and spoke to me as brisk as a bird. They found him dead in his bed this morning. I seem cut up about it? Well, not exactly. You noticed that I refused my chop today. Bless your soul, that's not on Gabriel's account. I am well on in years, and I suppose it would be natural of me to pity old men, and expect pity. But I can't. No, it's only the young that I pity. If you must know, I didn't take the chop today because I haven't the money in my pocket to pay for it. You see, there was this black tie that I gave 18p for, but something else happened this morning that I'll tell you about. I came down in a bus as usual. You remember what muggy weather it was up to 10 o'clock, though you wouldn't think it to feel the heat now. Well, the bus was packed, inside and out. At least there was just room for one more inside when we pulled up at Charing Cross. And there he got in, a boy with a stick and a bundle in a blue handkerchief. He wasn't more than 13, bound for the docks, you could tell at a glance, and by the way he looked about you could tell as easily that in stepping outside Charing Cross station he'd set foot on London stones for the first time. God knows how it struck him, the slush and drizzle, the ugly shop fronts, the horses slipping in the brown mud, the crowd on the pavement pushing him this side and that. The poor little chap was standing in the middle of it, with dazed eyes like a hare's, when the bus pulled up. His eyelids were pink and swollen, but he wasn't crying, though he wanted to. Instead, he gave a gulp as he came on board with stick and bundle and tried to look brave as a lion. I'd have given worlds to speak to him, but I couldn't. On my word, sir, I should have cried. I wasn't so much the little chap's look. It wasn't so much the little chap's look, but to the knot of his bundle there was tied a bunch of cottage flowers, Sweet William's boy's love and a rose or two, and the sight and smell of them in that stuffy omnibus were like tears on thirsty eyelids. It's the young that I pity, sir. For Gabriel in his bed up at Shepherd's Bush, there's no more to be said, as far as I can see, and as for me, I'm the oldest clerk in Tweedies, which is very satisfactory. It's the young faces, set toward the road along which we have travelled, that trouble me. Sometimes, sir, I lie awake in my lodgings and listen, and the whole of this London seems filled with the sound of children's feet running, and I can sob aloud. You may say that it is only selfishness, and what I really pity is my own boyhood. I dare say you're right. It's certain that as I kept glancing at the boy and his sea kit and his bunch of flowers, my mind went back to the January morning, 65 years back, when the coach took me off for the first time from the village where I was born to a London charity school. I was worse off than the boy in the omnibus, for I had just lost father and mother, yet it was the sticks and stones and flower beds that I mostly thought of. I went round and said good-bye to the lilacs. I told them to be in flower by the time I came back. I said to the rosebush, "You must be as high as my window next May. You know you only missed it by 3 inches last summer." Then I went to the cow-house and kissed the cows one by one. They were to be sold by auction the very next week, but I guessed nothing of it, and ordered them not to forget me. And last I looked at the swallow's nest under the thatch, and last year's nests, and told myself that they would be filled again when I returned. I remembered this, and how I stretched out my hands to the place for the coach-top, and how at Reading, where we stopped, I spent the 2 shillings that I possessed in a coconut and a bright clasp knife, and how, when I opened it, the nut was sour, and how I cried myself to sleep and woke in London. The young men in Tweedies, though they respect my long standing there, make fun of me at times because I never take a holiday in the country. Why, sir, I dare not. I should wander back to my old village, and, well, I know how it would be then. I should find it smaller and meaner. I should search about for the flowers and nests, and listen for the music that I knew 65 years ago, and remember, and they would not be discoverable. Also, every face would stare at me, for all the faces I know are dead. Then I should think I had missed my way and come to the wrong place. Or worse, that no such spot ever existed, and I have been cheating myself all these years. Then, in fact, I was mad all the while, and have no stable reason for existing. I, the oldest clerk in Tweedies. To be sure, there would be my parents' headstones in the churchyard, but what are they if the churchyard itself is changed? As it is, with £300 per annum, and enough laid by to keep him, if I fail, an old bachelor has no reason to grumble. But the sight of that little chap's nosegay, and the thought of the mother who tied it there made my heart swell as I fancied the earth must swell when rain is coming. His eyes filled once, and he brushed them under the pretence of pulling his cap forward, and stole a glance round to see if anyone had noticed him. The other passengers were busy with their own thoughts, and I pretended to stare out the window opposite, but there was the drop, sure enough, on his hand when he laid it on his lap again. He was bound for the docks, and thence for the open sea, and I, that was bound for Tweedies only, had to get out at the top of Cheapside. at the top of Cheapside. I know the bus conductor, a very honest man, and in getting out, I slipped half-a-crown into his hand to give to the boy, with my blessing at his journey's end. When I picture his face, sir, I wish I had made it 5 shillings, and gone without a new tie and dinner altogether. An interesting series of thoughts. Not bad. Oh well, that was it. Nice short one for today. It was the Omnibus, which is, and now that I think about it, what they used to call buses before we got lazy and just called them buses. So, or maybe they're the really big buses or something like that. Anyway, by Quiller-Couch. So, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you another time. Goodbye.